There we go. All right, welcome to another random review and how-to. Today, we're brining a turkey. So, I got my ingredients. We are going with brown sugar for a brine, garlic minced, sea salt. I got a couple apples. I got some Gala apples here, some Fiji apples, 2 lemons, parsley on the garage floor, that helps with the flavor, lemons for a little acidity, and then I also got some basil here. So first thing I'm actually going to do is put all of these ingredients that are part of the brine together in this bowl. I went ahead and filled up a cooler, so get yourself a cooler. My turkey I got yesterday at the store, I let it sit in my fridge overnight. It's still frozen, but what's going to happen is the water and everything for the next 3 days is really going to help it there. So first thing I want to do, I went ahead, make sure you sterilize your cooler, clean it out real good. If you're like me, I like to let them sit with all kind of things inside and they get all wacky, moldy and stuff. So I cleaned that out with soap, hot water, everything, scrubbed it, cleaned off my surface. Turkey is, again, frozen, and if you never bought a turkey before, there's a few things you got to know about this. Inside of the turkey, there is going to be a neck. There's going to be a bag shoved inside of it where the neck is. You could also get it from the bottom end. There is going to, the bag's going to have all the gizzards and heart and everything. So if you're into cooking that kind of stuff, you can just make sure you cook that forever. It takes a long time. You put that with a little tomato based, whether you just do crushed tomatoes or whatever, that turns out really good. But for this part, everything that's in there, also there's usually a plastic piece in there by the legs that you pull out. I like to keep all of it in there since it's frozen. If I could get the legs apart and pull it out, I will. But if it's too much of a challenge, I'm not going to spend too much time doing that today. I'll just put the whole turkey in there and let it all brine and stuff. And then when it comes time to make it, I'll pull all that out and drain everything out. So anyway, back to what we're talking about here. We want to make sure, as we're brining it, that we are thinking about all of our ingredients, what mixtures we want. Now, brine in general is really salt-based. Some people will brine with just salt. They might add another ingredient. I like to do that with some of the citrus, acidic, flavorful types things, the fruits. I think all of this comes off. You could put rosemary. That's probably the one ingredient I didn't grab that sometimes I put in, sometimes I don't, is rosemary. But between basil and parsley, that's going to give us a nice little flavor. So as far as salt's concerned, that's the main ingredient. So you want to make sure you put a lot of salt. As you can see, I have a lot of salt. I probably got almost a cup full of salt in there for my brine. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add my brown sugar. And you can use white sugar too if you want. It doesn't really matter. You can go dark brown sugar. I just like to put a lot of brown sugar because I want that introduced in there too. The thing about the salt, and this is true of brines, is that the salt gets into the meat and starts to break down the meat, the structure of the meat. It creates just a tenderness. It's tenderizing the meat, but as it opens up the meat, it allows all these other flavors to get introduced. So when I do minced garlic, I do a lot of that too. So I have about a half a little container here, so from Walmart. Just put all that in, a lot of garlic. And you're gonna understand why in 3 days, 2 days, tomorrow, whatever it is, when you open this guy up, meaning this, you're going to definitely smell all of the flavors coming out of it. So go ahead and do that. When it comes to my lemons, I like to create as much space on the lemon as possible. Meaning, I'm not just gonna cut it in half and juice it in there. I'm gonna cut it into many pieces so that there's more surface area of lemon being touched. If you just cut it in half, you only get that half that's showing. So I cut my lemon into a couple pieces. I am going to go ahead and just squeeze those in and then just drop them. Same thing with the apples. I want to get as much apple surface as I can. So again, I'm just going to cut it in as many pieces. Don't worry about the seeds, anything like that, because when you're done with this brine, you're going to take all of it out and you're going to wash down this turkey. And you might think to yourself, well, aren't you washing off all of the flavor and everything? No, because it's actually getting into the meat. So here, I'm just cutting these into many pieces. Try not to cut my finger off. Dropping those in. I lose a piece now. And you can use whatever kind of apples you want. Granny Smith, it doesn't matter. I think as you put these in, now remember you're putting all that salt and sugar, so it's gonna automatically start to break down the apples. It's breaking down everything we're putting in here, because as it's doing that to the turkey, it's also doing it to all the other ingredients. If you ever made brandy before, you know that when you start that process, if you made like a poor man's or what we call toilet wine, you start by adding yeast, but you have to put sugar in there, and that sugar starts to activate and break down. But at the same time, sugar in general with fruit or vegetables or whatever you ever do with hot peppers, it breaks it down. So you just kind of put all that in there. You can mix it up right now if you want. It doesn't really make a difference. It's all going in the liquid together. And so there you go. Now I got my basil and parsley. Now you could just put these whole sprigs in there how you want, but I like to cut them up because I like to, again, give it a little more surface area to cover it in there. It's just about having more pieces to go around. So those are all of those ingredients. A little more salt, what the heck, you know? I don't care. Doesn't matter, you can do whatever. You put some beer in there, I don't give a shit what you do. Just think about what kind of ingredients can I introduce into this that are gonna make it delicious. And start there and then go from there. So we got our brine, we got all of our ingredients in there. Now, not putting it in yet. And so what I did in my cooler is I filled it up about halfway. And I, of course, took my knife out of here. Ross, get your knife. So I got my knife. Now, we're dealing with poultry. Food safety, number one. I'm in Ohio, it's very cold here. So I could literally just leave this out in my garage. If you were in a warmer climate though, if your turkey's frozen, you drop it in here for 3 days, it's still might be a little bit close to frozen. If you put ice in there and you're in a warmer climate, I would recommend having the ice. You do not want to let this thing get thawed by any means. You got to keep that temperature at least refrigerator temperature, which is 55 degrees. If that means you put a little thermometer in there, go for it. So I am just undressing her right now. So you can see, frozen. And down here you can see there's my little plastic piece. Now I filled this up halfway because when I drop this in, I know it's gonna come up. Now I might have to add a little bit of water. What I wanna make sure is that my turkey is completely submerged inside of this water. So I pulled this out. The other thing about these turkeys, if you're buying a store-bought turkey, and you can kind of see it here, they actually inject these turkeys with solution, water. And I think it has a little bit of salt to it, but they actually inject these things and plump them up. And you can see a little bit of that frozen here on the side, how it just kind of sat. So when you put this in here, that also is gonna go in here. If there's a little bit of salt in it, it's just adding to the brine. Now, in a day or two, I might come back and try to just open it up and pull things apart, try to pull the wings off and the legs off, and maybe I could get this plastic piece out, maybe I could pull the bag out, and that's just allowing things to go in, right? That's all we want to do is make sure that our liquid in our brine is touching all pieces. So again, 3 days ahead of time, there I am. So I need just a little bit more water in there. I got pretty close though. You can see what that there looks like. I'm just gonna take my brine and I'm gonna drop it in there. All over it. And I do want this to get submerged. I can see that I liquefied most of it, so I'm gonna just use my hand and dig that out. Scraping it all up. I can tell you already, there is a good smell that's coming off of this brine. Just the lemon combined with the basil. Parsley's coming out since I cut it up. Kind of gave it a little more surface temperature. The lemons obviously have a lot of aroma to it. But I just want this to get in there. I'm gonna mix it around a little bit. And this is the only time I'm really gonna mix anything. Just gonna spread it all out, let it sit in there. And then what I'm gonna do is add just a little bit more water. I do want this at least up to this edge. I want it to be as covered as possible. When I close this thing up, because it's a cooler, because I'm in Ohio, the temperature has dropped. It's getting really cold at night here. This is gonna be fine in my garage. And that's all I'm gonna do is leave it in my garage. I'm not bringing it in the house. I don't want any of that. I don't want a higher temperature. So the garage is a perfect spot for it. And you can see I just pushed it over there. You can already see how it's not coming apart, but at least there's a little bit different color. So that is the brining process. If you have any questions on this video, make sure you leave those down below. remember, starting your brine, you're going to read online, how long can I brine? Well, it's up to you. I mean, I don't know. But I would say you don't want to go longer than 72 hours. I am going right up to 7. I'm going before 72 hours. So 2.5 days from now, I'm going to pull this out and get ready to cook it. And I have a set it and forget it. You probably may or may not have ever heard of those. If not, look them up. It's a really cool. I have the old big box, so I could fit this big bird in there. But the set it and forget it, I love it. I've always cooked turkeys. I've been cooking turkeys for 20 years like that. So I do it in the set it and forget it. But 3 days of brine is really going to get in there and just really marinate this thing and give it some great flavor. So again, if you have any questions, leave them down below. I want to thank you for watching this. We'll see you next time.